Hello, this is Mark Denham. I'm a radio presenter, an audio producer, a podcaster, and a voiceover artist. And we're on to episode 6 now of the audio journey. If you've been following since the start, you'll have learned about the importance of your recording space. You will have learned also about the microphone selections for you, dynamic or condenser. Maybe you'll have learned about an interface or a mixer, and also those optional steps that we discussed in last week's part of the journey for processing, the DBX286S, for example, which is in my chain, or of course, equalizers, overall compressors for live streaming. So hopefully by now, you've kind of set up your recording space, whether it's acoustically treated, if you've got a condenser mic, or it's maybe a closet. And whatever it is you're going to record, you will now be ready to record. Everything should be good to go, and you can start recording. Do not be put off by this. This is Adobe Audition, and this is a very, very powerful piece of software, okay? But you can learn it in little steps, so don't be put off by this. You may be that you're using Pro Tools. You may be using Audacity, which is free, very popular with podcasters. But for the purposes of this, I am using Adobe Audition CC 2019, which is my favorite digital audio workstation. And what do I do to record a voiceover? I go to File, New, or even File, New, rather than scrolling along the menu. File, New audio file. I will give it a name, Test Recording, okay? Sample rate, 44,100 hertz. This is the standard for audio. If you're working with video, you may consider 48,000 hertz, which is the standard for video. 44,100, though, is the standard for audio. Channels doesn't really matter, because your voice, unless you're using a Blue Yeti, which is stereo, your voice is always going to be in mono. And the chances are, if you're using an interface, then you have set your recording device to be left and right, both input 1, where you've plugged your microphone in. Otherwise, you're going to get your voice come up on the left channel and an absolutely empty right channel, and you'll just have to fix that. This is the important one here. Bit depth, 32-bit float. What does this mean? This is the headroom that you get when you record. You have the options of 8-bit, don't record in 8-bit, whatever you do. That's like very 1990s. 16-bit, 24-bit, or 32-bit float. Now, 32-bit float doesn't really, if I'm honest, exist. 32-bit doesn't exist. 32-bit float is a virtual technology. The importance of this is when it comes to clipping. Now, if you're working in 16-bit or 8-bit and you clip either analog or digital, you've ruined your audio, and that's it, ruined. If you are working in 32-bit float, you can clip digitally and recover your audio. What do I mean by digital? That's if you're working away. Let's say that you've recorded your voiceover. Hello, this is Mark. Join me this weekend, and we will be playing the best songs from the 90s. And then you think, I'll have a bit of music in the background. But your voice is quite loud. You add the music, and, it all goes above 0. That's fine. If you're working in 32-bit float, then you can easily reduce that back down without any damage. Analog clipping is when you record in to Adobe Audition. You have a decibel meter here, and you can see the level of your recording as you record, okay? Again here as well. Do not go into this little red bit here. You will see it'll come up red if we do go into it. Do not go into it. That is clipping, and because that is as you are recording it in, it is analog clipping, and you have ruined your audio. Now that you've opened your file, though, you're ready to record whatever it is, a podcast, maybe it's a voiceover, a DJ drop, perhaps corporate narration, whatever. All you have to do now, obviously you would have your copy set up. I haven't, because I'm not recording one. I'm just recording this example for you. All you have to do now is hit record, and off you go. Hello, this is Mark, and this weekend on Radio Mark, we're playing nothing but the 90s. There you go. There's my voiceover recorded. Maybe I'm recording a podcast. Hello, welcome to the Mark Denham Podcast, Episode 1. Perhaps I'm recording a DJ drop. DJ Mark, playing the best tunes in the mix. Doesn't matter what you're doing, you can easily record into Adobe Audition. The one thing I will say, and I mentioned this last week in the audio journey last week on the optional processors, is that you will see there's not much dynamic range in my audio. That's because I am running it through a DBX286S and I do have the compressor whacked up pretty high for the majority of work that I do. If I was recording a voiceover... Hello, this is Mark, and this weekend on Radio Mark, we're playing nothing but the 90s. That doesn't really matter if I'm recording a voiceover. Doesn't matter. But if I was recording a podcast, I would perhaps like a little bit more dynamic range. So here's my podcast intro. Hello, welcome to the Mark Denham Podcast, Episode 1. Not much dynamic range in that. What do I mean by dynamic range? I mean the difference between the loudest part of your audio and the quietest part. For me, there isn't much because I am running through the DBX286S with the compressor on. I could compress that even further and get rid of it altogether if I wanted, but because it's compressed, very hard to add dynamic range to it now. So you got to think about that when you're setting up your audio, but you've basically recorded whatever it is that you are recording now. You can see that we peaked around about -9 decibels. So I'm happy with that. We have plenty of spare room. I'm going to get rid of the beginning here. Don't need that by selecting it and just hitting delete on the keyboard. Get rid of the end, selecting, hit delete on the keyboard. Let's have a listen. Hello, this is Mark, and this weekend on Radio Mark, we're playing nothing but the 90s. Okay, so there is a basic voiceover. We'll just stick with that for now. That's the only one we'll stick with for now, okay? Now you can see here, difference between the loudest and the quietest is not very much. I can go ahead now and I can boost the volume of that by going to Effects, Amplitude and Compression, Normalize. I want to normalize to, let's say, -1 decibels. And there it is. What that's now done is that has taken the loudest part of my audio, found out the difference between the loudest part and -1, and then normalized everything by the amount it took to normalize the loudest part to -1. So the whole audio is bigger, the dynamic range is the same. Now if you listen, you'll find it's louder. Hello, this is Mark, and this weekend on Radio Mark, we're playing nothing but the 90s. Now, if I'd been asked to record that for a radio station, that may very well be all they want. They may do the processing on the audio, they do the mixing in whatever it is they want to add. Perhaps a station ramp or maybe 90s music in the background or whatever. I could just save that now by going to File and Save As, and I could just save it as test recording. Save in WAV format until you have done your very final mix down. That's an important tip because every time you save in MP3, you are adding compression to that audio and you are slightly degrading the audio. So save in WAV format until you've done your very final mix down, because I may now want to edit this. Hello, this is Mark, and this weekend on Radio Mark, see, I may think, do you know what? Let's get rid of that little gap there. What I've done is I've pressed the plus key there to zoom in, and I may want to get rid of that little gap and select that little gap and hit delete again. And now you see I've changed my voiceover. Hello, this is Mark, and this weekend on Radio Mark, we're playing nothing but the 90s. Doesn't sound very natural, but I've changed my voiceover. I can now save that again just by clicking File and Save this time, and I've overwritten it with the WAV file, still uncompressed audio. If I just saved that as an MP3 file, then made that edit, I would have compressed it once, then edited the compressed audio and compressed it again. Each time you do that, you are slightly degrading your audio. So hopefully that's got you up and running. We will, over the next couple of episodes, discuss meeting requirements. If you've been asked to record a voiceover, you may be given a specification sheet that you have to meet. We'll discuss processing your audio, whether that's compression, equalization, normalization. We'll discuss also mixing your audio into, let's say, a radio promo, a basic simple voiceover, an advert, something like that. We'll discuss how to mix all that together if you keep with the journey. If there's anything I can do to help you, don't forget, go to markdenham.com. That's where the whole blog series is for this. And there will be, of course, a blog accompanying this video. markdenham.com. If you want anything explained to you, maybe help with anything, processing your audio, perhaps maybe publishing, audio, stuff like that. What do? Then just use the contact me form. If you want perhaps your podcast produced, I can do that for you. If you would like a voiceover like this one. Hello, this is Mark, and this weekend on Radio Mark, we're playing nothing but the 90s. You can get a voiceover like that as well through me. Remote voice track radio, I can do that as well. I can do lots of things for you. If you need any help, markdenham.com and use the contact tab. Thank you for following this episode of The Audio Journey. We will have another episode for you next week where we will take in a little bit more of Adobe Audition, some processing and some mixing of audio over the next few weeks. Keep yourself well and keep up to date with the journey.